together with American songwriter, we had the opportunity to talk with Teddy Swims.
Adam was able to talk to Teddy on the phone. Teddy also has a new song out called Pinkie. Check out the new acoustic version of it as well.
And make sure to check out our YouTube channel and Facebook page at Bringing It Backwards, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bringing Back Pod.
And we'd appreciate your support if you follow and subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to these podcasts.
We're Bringing It Backwards with Teddy Swims.
Hey, Adam, pleasure to meet you, or, kind of virtually, rather, but pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you, Teddy. Thanks for taking time to chat with me today.
No, absolutely, man. Wouldn't rather be anywhere else.
Oh, right on, man. Well, I was going to start off by, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Conyers. It's like a city about 30 minutes east of Atlanta. It's a small little town. Pretty much like my whole family's from there. My mom, my dad, both sides of my grandparents, great-grandparents. We've just all been stuck to this little town of Conyers forever.
Wow, that's pretty incredible that many generations are still from the same town.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Like I like grew up like owing it to my family to like do something outside of Conyers, Like there was always that like hardcore like, okay, son, like my granddad was a Pentecostal pastor, so there was always this like, you have this calling on your life. You can't run from this calling. Like my whole family lives on basically a diamond. It's like pretty much like one plot of land within like a mile that about 15 houses my family lives on, which was, it sounds amazing, but growing up, it's like, you do something wrong. Your grandma, your aunt, your grandma's aunt, everybody like knows you're a shitty kid, So it's
right.
Like, there was some pressure to that for sure. But, we all like all the guys that I work with now, we kind of grew up within like walking distance to each other and have all known each other and have been working together since we was practically in middle school. So,
wow, that's awesome. That's really cool. So tell me about how'd you get into music? You said that your grandfather was like was he a pastor? Is that what you said?
Yeah, he was a Pentecostal pastor, but we never I didn't really have like a lot of a musical background in my family. My buddy Jesse, who plays guitar and our group, he's been in bands with me and been with me. He's kind of what got me into music. His dad was the first guy that I ever saw like play acoustic and sing, and that was that point for me that I was like, yo, this is badass. I want to be that guy. And I watched him always kind of coming up and having his band practices and playing at little bars and stuff and doing their covers. And it was just like always like what I wanted out of life. And I finally started taking it serious in high school. I got into musical theater with my buddy Jesse, and that's when I really like fell in love with singing. Shortly after that, I got out of high school and got in a bunch of metal bands. That was like in 2011. That was like the time that everybody was doing post-hardcore and metalcore, and
sure.
So I was like primarily wanting to scream before I was singing. That was like what I thought I was going to be doing, was kind of doing aggressive yelling vocals and not so much pretty singing like I'm doing now.
Sure.
And so yeah, I had been in a bunch of metal bands. Even prior to Teddy Swims, I was still kind of, in hardcore bands, still just trying to scratch that itch. Still to this day, I don't ever get away from that. We still will, whether the world hears them or not, we still kind of get some time and record some heavy shit just to kind of, scratch that itch that we can never really get away from. Obviously, there's not as much, like longevity in that kind of career path. So
sure,
we're on this one, but it's always like an itch we want to scratch, So, but yeah, so we kind of built the team, like the guys that I've worked with my whole life as far as like metal music goes. Like my band Elephants, we started probably 5-6 years ago, and those same guys now are the band that is Teddy Swims' band. And we've over the last year, I never thought I was going to be a solo artist at all. I thought like, I didn't want to be by myself. I didn't think that being a solo artist, I thought you had to be by yourself. And I was so wrong, because now I have like the biggest team that I ever thought I would have. And it's under a solo artist name, and so yeah, that's kind of how I've just been in a bunch of bands. Like prior to Teddy Swims, I was in this country alternative band called Wild Heart. I was in this little funk soul band called Elephant. I was in a heavy band still called Eris. I was playing 80s, like 80s fucking rock and hair metal and bars and shit with a group of guys, and was trying to make money doing that. And some church guys I was with at the time, we were doing like 60 soul covers, playing at weddings and trying to make money. So I was literally in 5 bands prior to this whole situation. And
whoa.
Yeah, and weirdly, Teddy Swim started out as like a hip hop, like a SoundCloud rap project, which was, you know, just a fun thing that it was not supposed to kind of go anywhere. And a buddy of mine, Tyler Carter, he wanted to end up, like, we recorded one song, and he was like, "Yo, look, I'm about to go on tour for my solo tour." He's in this band called Issues, another rock band.
Okay.
And it's like, "Yo, if you want to come, like, open up on my solo tour, like, please just come open up." And I had one song at a time, and like I said, it was a SoundCloud rap song, and it was like a trash rap song. And we ended up going, like, he's like, "Just, dude, you got a month, get 30 minutes of music together, you guys can come play on tour." And so me and my other guitarist, now Addie Maxwell, we wrote a bunch of shitty rap songs and did our first tour as Teddy Swim. And at that time, my manager was just like, "Yo, this is what you need to be doing. I mean, probably not rap, but Teddy Swim's the project. You know, Teddy Swim, people like you as Teddy Swims, and not the guy that is a singer for 5 bands that nobody gives a shit about." Right. So, we started doing the covers, as a way of just, like, you know, we all came from different backgrounds. Like I said, I came from different, you know, country to metal to hip hop to everything, that funk and soul, that, like, the gospel and theater and show tunes, that I just didn't know where I existed as far as being a solo artist. I didn't know what box to live in. And so we started doing all those covers as a way of just, you know, doing as many different genres as we could, and hoping that somebody would just point us in the right direction. And
those covers became later, like a huge success for you.
Yeah. I mean, and so, yeah, that was kind of a problem in itself, because now I'm, like, more lost than I've ever been, because all the, you know, maybe the country cover did well, or the hip hop cover did well, or this cover did well. And so it seems like people these days don't give a shit what genre you do. They just, like, care about, like, a personality and a voice that speaks to them. I think that's, like, what the important thing is now. So yeah, I'm kind of more lost now than I've ever been on what I'm supposed to be sounding like, but I've more paid attention to than I've ever been. And that's, like, a scary thing all on its own, because in less than a year, we have, you know, maybe 3 million cross-platform followers, and they're all expecting something, and I'm more lost on what to give them than I've ever been. So, like,
yeah, that must be pretty overwhelming.
A shit show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a shit show, but, you know, like, I got my whole team, and we're in it together, and Warner's been amazing at just kind of pointing me in the right direction, and just kind of letting me feel like what I need to feel, you know. So right now we live in Snellville. It's right outside of Atlanta, and I live with my whole team. Like, we have our home studio, our producer lives here, our videographer, photographer, my whole band lives here. There's about 12 of us quarantined in this little house in Snellville, and we kind of distribute our merch out of it, and, like, have a little compound out here. And that's kind of where we're at now.
Wow.
Trying to figure out what the hell we're supposed to do.
Yeah. But, well, at least you guys are together. You can probably put music out.
Yeah. And that's what's been great. But, you know, like, prior to all this Corona situation, we were, you know, we were out in LA and doing some co-writes with some writers and with producers and stuff. And so that just kind of got, you know, ruined from the Corona situation. Now we're just back here and trying to go back to the roots of just us kind of existing in our own place, you know, and trying to figure out what we should write. And the whole process is kind of flipped upside down during the situation. So, but we're in it, you know, we're doing as best we can.
What was the first cover you put up on YouTube that, like, started the momentum of everything?
So it was Rock With You by Michael Jackson. We put it out on June 25th. That was the 10-year anniversary of his death. And so we ended up just putting it out just to be like, "Yo, I love you, Mike. You know, fucking a huge inspiration." So we just put it out, and it started just getting traction over Facebook, you know, where it started, like, one day it all of a sudden had 10,000 views on Facebook. So we were like, holy shit, this is working. You know, 10,000 views, you know, and then next thing you know, we woke up one day and it had 250,000 views. And we were like, what the hell is happening? So it comes to find out, I was all these people from New Zealand that were awake, because we would be up all night, like trying to reach out, comment back. And most of the time we'd be up like 6 a.m. It'd probably be the start of their day. So we were talking to a whole bunch of people from New Zealand and had no idea. Next thing you know, New Zealand's listening and a bunch of people from New Zealand. So we did our next cover, that Rivers by 660, which is like a huge Auckland, New Zealand artist. And we did that cover.
That's
and it
smart.
just took off and went viral.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden that went viral, and then we decided like, yo, we should just keep on doing this cover thing. And sure enough, it started hitting on YouTube. The I Can't Make You Love Me just took off on YouTube, and we did the Shania Twain. It just started taking off, and we just kind of started getting market feedback from everywhere. It seemed like some songs that did really well on TikTok or some songs that did really well on Twitter, it depended on the way that people kind of hear music differently these days, like where Facebook is like a lot older of a crowd now, or they like a lot more long form content, where they like to hear things like what this song means to me in a whole huge spiel of like what that song is, and you could give them a song and then they'll listen to your whole spiel about the song and what the song means to you, and then listen to it in that goggle. Now with somebody on Twitter or TikTok, they really give a shit about 10 seconds of a song, and that's what that song means to them, is maybe the little skit that they did with their friend, or the little dance that they did on TikTok, And so we kind of just started gathering that people, it's not so much about genre anymore as much as it's about the way that people really hear and receive music and apply it to their life. It's different generationally, and different culturally. So we kind of are like learning how to, like, if it's a hip hop or an R&B song, they like it kind of in this way, and they like to be told and seen this way, and so we've kind of just gotten a lot of feedback that we feel like we're kind of gaining an understanding of, so we had originally, our first song we ever put out was a song called Night Off, and it was like, more hip hop, more R&B driven, and then turned around and put out Pinkie, and right after we signed to Warner.
Sure. So you the hip hop song that you put out, that's what, you were going to go on. Did you go on tour with Issues on that?
Well, I went on with Tyler Carter. I went with he's like the front man of that, but he has his like solo pop stuff. And
Got
that's
it.
What we went on tour with.
And then were you playing? You had the rap song, and then was the rest of your set just covers? Like, how did that?
No, it was all like, we wrote about 30 minutes of rap music in a couple weeks time, and just had to like go on tour and play the tracks and hope for the best.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, they're songs that will probably never see the light of day. They're probably god awful. I don't know, but but what's funny is it's like, 10 years of singing in bands that nobody gave a shit about. My first tour ever was me completely outside of my element in a rap, just like literally, I mean, SoundCloud rap. I mean, it was cheesy, like yelling, just bullshit, and not to say that hip hop's bullshit, but our hip hop was absolutely bullshit. Like what we were doing was just emulating songs that we heard that we thought were cool, that we were, writing and saying things that we thought were cool. Like, it's like, okay, well, if this is about this, then we're going to write about this, so.
Yeah.
But I mean, it ended up being the most eye-opening experience for me. Like, I think hip hop and rapping taught me a whole lot more about singing than singing ever has, which is weird.
That is, yeah. You feel like hip hop taught you how to sing, be a better singer?
I think it taught me how to like not be so such a perfectionist when it came to my voice. I have being in musical theater. I always had a teacher who was like teaching me the dynamics of breath support and how the voice works in the body, and learning so many things about how to like take your voice and the right moment and the right, like how to really utilize and make moments. And I think that like it helped me a whole lot as far as what my ability is now, and knowing how to really affect the listener vocally and dynamically understanding how the voice works in the body. But I think hip hop for me was the first time that I could just slap auto tune and do some lazy singing and be happy with a melody. And I've learned a whole lot about myself because like I was so particular about everything that came out of my mouth and never really, when the voice that I'm talking to you right now with, this standard voice might have power on its own, you know, but I was always singing and trying to portray something out of a listener rather than just using my voice like I'm using it right now. And I felt like my regular voice didn't have that same kind of power or emotion. But messing around with hip hop or messing around with kind of poetry, if you will, it's like I found that this range in my voice that I'm speaking to you out on now has just as much power sometimes as my prettiest singing, you know?
Yeah. I totally agree with you. When you got back from that tour, where you're doing the hip hop songs, is that when you transitioned into the covers? Like, what was the next step for you in like starting Teddy Swims?
Yeah, so that's kind of what happened. We got back from tour, and that was like, you know, when my manager at the time, like Luke Conway, he lives with us too, and that's like one of my best friends in the world. But he had told me, he's like, yo, we need to do Teddy Swims. Like Teddy Swims, you need to like not worry about your bands. You need to quit being with all the 5 bands like nobody gives a shit about. Like we should focus on this, like Teddy Swims, you know. And at the time I was like, yo, I don't want to be by myself. I'm not a solo artist. He's like, well, you can keep your band. Like you could tell Elephant to just play with you as Teddy Swims, and we just try to find the perfect sound that is Teddy Swims. Like obviously I didn't want to be a rapper. That's just like not my thing. That's not what I want to do. I mean, you know, I still utilize those things and some things. Like there's a rap verse in Pinkie, you know, but at the same time, we came back, and so that's when the cover started. We wanted to just figure out a way to make Teddy Swims a singer, you know, and a band and a unit, but obviously not a rapper. And so how did we do that? So we just started doing a bunch of covers and different genres that I had kind of grown up listening to and hoping that somebody would just point us in the right direction. Like we thought that maybe if one of them did really well or 2 of them did really well in this R&B vein, that we would know, okay, Teddy's an R&B singer. Let's just do that, you know?
Sure.
But we didn't know that the country song would go really. It was just Shania Twain would be the best one. You know, we didn't know that the Mario R&B cover would be one of the best ones. And we didn't know that, you know, so with all this like found knowledge, we like, okay, now we know that Teddy Swims is more of, I guess, a team and a personality rather than, you know, a certain type of singer. Right. And
sure.
So we started doing the covers as a way of just trying to learn what people wanted to hear out of my voice. Because we knew we were doing something that was working finally.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with the amount of traction you're getting, wow. I mean, millions of plays on songs like that's crazy. Tell me about Pinkie and getting signed to Warner Records.
So funny thing is we were kind of getting some attention from a lot of labels at the time. Like that was like right when I Can't Make You Love Me really started going crazy on YouTube, and then Shania Twain really started going really crazy on YouTube. So I think all these labels, they have like a little it's like a little program or algorithm or something. Like when you see, you know, when like something sparks, like music gets a lot of plays, they're like the first to know about it. Or
sure.
so. I don't know if it's like an algorithm or if they're just scouring the web or what. But so we started getting hit up a lot, you know, and then so it was now flights to LA and New York, and we were going back and forth. And weirdly, the first people that really hit us up was Atlantic, UK, and they had came down here. This guy Paul Samuels came down here and visited us at our little house and kind of saw our whole compound and project and fell in love with it. But at the time, you know, we're from here, so we didn't want to sign directly to Atlantic, UK, of course.
Sure.
So that's when we started getting the all the interest from, you know, Atlantic here and the US and Warner and RCA and all these Capitol and all these big labels that started hitting us up. And so we ended up going, basically we're going to release Pinkie independently originally. And our whole goal with it was to just be like, look, we're going to release this song independently, but we're down to sign a deal. So who can ever make the deal make sense before we release this song, we will sign the deal and release the song through you, you know? And Warner had been like just so amazing to us. And and also like was one of the one labels that was going to allow us to be ourselves and kind of take this journey with us and not be. I feel like so many of the people that we talked to had this idea that I was like some male Adele and I needed to just sing ballads and be this songy ballad singer. And, you know, that was, and as much as I loved that, I think the issue is that I didn't want to, you know, like you go to an Adele show and I love her so much. Her voice is incredible. Everything she does is absolutely incredible. But I feel like you go to a show like that, you know, you're just, you know, at the Fox Theater in Atlanta and you're sitting down and you're watching it, or maybe you're standing and you're watching it, but there's no like, you know, moments where it's like, hey, let's like jump around for a little bit.
There's no like,
you know, there's no like
big energy moments.
You know, and so I didn't, yeah, exactly. And I didn't want to just be the singer that you want to cry every time you hear my voice because I'm singing some heartbreaking song. You know, I just would rather like, sometimes I don't want to just sing heartbreaking songs, which most of the songs we write are heartbreaking songs, but even if they have some upbeat and some tempo and some dance rhythm to them, then like we can get through our heartbreak like that too. You know, it doesn't have to be ballads.
Sure.
So I think Warner for us is like the first people that really, you know, listened to all the songs that we had recorded at the time and liked all the directions that we were going and kind of had a vision of, you know, I guess railing that in instead of just trying to tell us like, oh, that ain't what you should be doing. You should be doing songs like this. If you stuck with us, we would make sure that you get these kind of songs like this that would really showcase your voice and showcase you, you know. And it was just like, you don't know me. That's not my voice. And so I think Warner for us was the first people, you know, that really care to get to know me as a person and not as a artist that they wanted to form, but to get to know me as a person. And so we released Pinkie with them. I think Pinkie is like, I a lot of times, I don't know if that was the right direction or what we were supposed to do with the narrative, but I think that was our first attempt on like slapping as many types of genres as we possibly could together and then hoping for the best.
Yeah.
So we felt strong about it at the time, and it was just shoving as many things into one song as we possibly could. And I think that like drove the narrative in a way, but I don't think that's by all the, you know, end all or what we sound like. I'm in a place right now where I don't know if I'll ever know what I'm supposed to sound like, or if I'm supposed to like find a sound that's mine, or if it's just like a constant search. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you could always, I mean, the artists evolve all the time and change, you know, change sounds or go different directions. So, I mean, obviously Pinkie was working for you because it has like over 1 million plays, the video. So people like it, you know.
Yeah, which is such it's a relief because there's so much of me that always sits and thinks like, man, you're the cover guy and people are going to want you to sing covers and they're never going to care about your original music. And, you know, there's always just that small voice in my head that is just like, you suck, dude. And you only sing songs, other people's songs. Nobody's ever going to care about your song, which I know is not true, but you know, there's just always that piece of you that says that.
Sure. Yeah. Is Pinkie going to be part of an EP or a record with Warner?
We will release an EP this year. I'm not like, don't know if we have an exact date, but it'll be later on this year. And we'll release the EP. But Pinkie will not be a part of it. We'll be releasing a single before the EP that's going to be, that will be a part of the EP. So Pinkie's just going to kind of be its own standstill. I guess just first shot in the dark at what our career could be.
Sure. So then do you have the songs done for the EP or are you still working on them?
We're still working. I think like we told ourselves like 2 weeks ago that 2 weeks ago was going to be the end of that week. We're going to be known what we were going to do. And then we're just going to take all the songs that we have in our bank and figure out the best 6 or 5 or 7, whatever it may be. And then choose those and start working on those. But then we pushed that back. And then this week we told ourselves at the end of this week, we'll know what songs we want and we'll have those songs finished. But then you know how it goes. You just like, you get another idea. You get another 2 or 3 ideas during the week and you're like, no, let's see these through because these might could be the ones. And then you just keep pushing your soft deadline that you've given yourself back because you're just like, okay, no, this is the sound. No, actually, that was terrible. This is the sound. No. This one right here, dog, this is what everything should sound like. So we just have like but it will be, you know what I'm saying? It will
Yeah,
be
no,
out
I
this
totally
year, though.
get.
I just like, yeah, we just like don't know and what the issue is with this whole Corona situation is we don't have like a idea. We don't get that like immediate response when writing songs. You know, like at
Hmm.
sometime we could write a song, we could record a song, and then we have a show over the next couple of days. So it was easy to just be like, well, we can try this for these people, and if
Hmm.
they like it, we know we're on the right path.
Sure.
Or, you know, when you're usually writing something in a room with somebody, because we've been doing a lot of these FaceTime writing sessions with writers that Warner sets up with us, and
Hmm.
where they're like amazing, and it's amazing writers that I'm huge fans of that I've been watching write songs for years. It's hard kind of over the FaceTime because if I was in a room with them, you know, there's those moments where you can kind of hum a melody and you get into this melody and you get in this kind of mood and somebody could be like, yo, that's it. That's the melody. Let's like
Hmm.
write off of that. That's what we need to do. But kind of being alone in your own space and working via FaceTime, you can't really like a lot of times just mumble melodies and really hear each other. So we've been kind of, I think the weird part is like freeing ourselves that songs got to get done in a day. You know, like usually you would go meet up with a writer, you would write a song, you would feel good, you would get into a vibe and an atmosphere you create, and then you would like write a song and it would come out feeling really good or not, but then you could move forward. I think now we had to free ourselves from the idea that songs get done in a day. So they take so much longer because, you know, it might just be I came up with a chorus and I could send it to you. Then you could write a little verse part, send it back, and then I could come up, get an idea from that maybe makes me want to write a whole new chorus and then send it back. And then
Hmm.
over the span of a few days, we get a song done. And where that might be helpful because you have more time to think about those songs, I think it also gives you time to overthink everything, you know? So
Sure.
if I'm sitting in my corner and I'm like writing a verse for this song because you sent me a chorus and then I record my verse, but I have 4 different ideas. I sit there on myself and chew up those 4 ideas, and then I finally send you the 3rd verse idea, right? But if I was in the room with you, you could have heard me hum and sing all 4 of those, and you could have told me actually the second one was the best,
Right.
and we would have never even gotten to the second 2. But
Yeah.
now I'm like sitting here on myself, chewing up 4 different ideas and being like, oh shit, thinking way too hard. And then I choose the 4th idea when in reality, you might have liked the second idea so much better. But we're not together, so we can't know and we can't.
Hmm.
It, so that's like also slowed a lot down for us on
Yeah.
this situation. You know,
It's probably hard to vibe with people over like the computer as far as like if you're writing music and stuff, trying to like, gel with somebody, but they're on the other end and maybe the Zoom is like the call is skipping and and then there's latency and the
yeah,
whole thing.
exactly, exactly. And so now it's like where we used to could just do a song in a day and feel really good about the song. It feels like we're working on 15 songs at once over the span of 2 weeks. And so we're just like kind of having like little bits of projects that we're doing
Mhm.
over. And so it kind of, it's hard to kind of capture, like you always have to go back into a song and like recapture that feeling in that moment that you were in and try to recreate that moment again. And I think that where that loses a lot of clarity, I think it can be good too, because you're just, you're listening to your song for what it is and not for the moment that you're existing in. But
Mhm.
sometimes the moment you're existing in is what the song should be. And that's what you want the listener to feel is that same moment. So how do you go back and recreate that moment over and over again when you're working on 15 different moments?
Sure. Yeah. Do these new songs sound similar to Picky, or are they all kind of going in different directions?
Yeah, they're kind of just everywhere right now. I think I feel like we're trying our best to do. I gotten some. This guy Julian Bunetta, man, an amazing writer, taught me not too long ago because we was working on this song and we hadn't come up with the chorus, but when I was out there in LA, we were writing it together and we didn't come up with a chorus. Well, I finally found an idea and a melody and everything for the chorus, but I felt like I think it's leaning way too country, and I think it's like too country for what we're trying to do. And
Mhm.
he gave me this amazing advice that was just like, yo, if you're writing something and it feels too country, like just lean all the way into it. Write the most country fucking song you can. Or like if it feels too rock and roll, write the most rock and roll song you can. That way if you hear that song, you can always go back as a listener, and
Mhm.
especially somebody like me who does covers, like we took the Blinding Lights covers and took it from an 80s disco sound to a, almost folk acoustic sound. He's like,
Yeah,
you
I
can do that
love
with
that
your own
song.
song.
It's
What if, what if you take your own songs that we feel like are maybe too 80s disco, and we take that same approach and say, what if we take this song and make it acoustic folk?
Mm-hmm.
And then we could do that to our own songs. So he just kind of taught me, was like, yo, just lean into what you're writing. But that's also where I'm getting at is, I think where the songs we're writing now, some of them are just so like in different lanes. It's like hard to find the right mixture. It's like, I feel like I just want to lean into rock and roll if it's a rock and roll song, or I want to like really lean into this 90s R&B if that's the way it's going. I want to like go Latin if it's going to go that route, or I want to like really lean into things. And then, so I feel like we're kind of everywhere with this, but I kind of want to maybe keep the EP like that, because I think it's like one of those things where we were going to do an album first, but I thought maybe if we just did an EP and it was just a few different types of, like, just like we did with the covers, where it was just few different types of things and just all these different avenues. And it's just kind of like an, I don't know, you tell me kind of EP. And then we just see what really does well. And then we could be like, okay, well, they like these two songs off of it, so let's make sure that we feel like the album is these kind of 2 or 3 feels right here, and kind of like create an atmosphere for an album off of that. I think the EP is just kind of be a little all over the place, and maybe good, maybe bad, I don't know, but we're just fucking throwing shit at walls, man.
See what sticks. I love it, man. Well, I can't wait to hear the EP when it comes out. I love what you're doing. I love Pinkie, and the covers are so good, man. You definitely have a lot of talent. I love it.
That means the world, man. That means the world to hear.
It's so good. I love the videos. Everything you're doing is so great. I have one more question for you. I appreciate your time, man. It's been a blast talking to you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Just I would say don't shut up. Do everything. I think for me, I'm still an aspiring artist. I feel like I'm not even quite what a lot of people would view as an artist quite yet. They don't, I haven't really controlled a narrative in a way quite yet that has really moved the needle. But I feel like personally, just don't shut up, man. I spent so much of my life having people just tell me like, yo, don't quit your day job, and like, yo, don't, or yo, this isn't going to work for you, or this metal shit, you need to be focused on this type of music, or you need to be doing this type of vein, or you need to be focused on pop music, or whatever it is that like they think that you should be. I think you should, I think what I've learned is just trust your gut, like your instinct. Your first instinct is always right. To everybody that could hear this, like if you at all can tell yourself that one day that you trusted your gut and it ended up being wrong, then I will change what I'm saying right now. But I can promise you, every time that I've ever told myself, like, because I've given so many people and so many things the benefit of the doubt that my mind can be changed and everything can be changed, and what I think is right or wrong. But I think you trust your gut, you're always going to come out right. You're always going to come out reassured. I think that's why, like, the older we get, the further we kind of get from who we thought we were at the same time, So I would just say trust your gut. Just trust your gut. If you want to aspire to be an artist, trust your gut. That's the only thing in the world, the only advice I could get to anybody about anything. Like, go with what you feel is right for you, always.